Hi folks, and welcome to another Unthinking Aloud with Claire. As you can see, I'm not in my bedroom come workspace today. I've come out because it is the most spectacular day. Now, it's not great for filming, but we're going to have a go. And I will give you a little spin around. It's terribly bright. You can see behind me a lake and mountains. Beautiful fields. You might hear the cockerel in a little while. And I've just come out to a place called the Freilicht Museum. And, sorry, wrong language. And it's closed at the moment, but I will bring you back at a time when it's open because it's like celebrates the history and traditional way of living in this area. So it's like kind of like an old farmstead, but lots of buildings, old original buildings showing you how people used to live, and it's beautiful. And to be perfectly honest, I've been here once before when it was open, and I said to Frank when I came, I was like, oh, it reminds me of my little house back home. Beautiful energy here and so quiet. Just stunning. Blue sky, very few clouds. 15, 16 degrees, which is mad. We're not even at the end of January yet. And less than a week ago, it was like -8, -10. Crazy, but beautiful. So, I just wanted to talk a bit about content and spaciousness and trying to find a balance between doing the stuff that we need to do in the world, being involved in everything that we need to be involved in every day because we need all of that. We need to be able to think about decisions we're making and all of the stuff that we've got to do in our lives. But finding a balance between that and this sense of being, which doesn't require a big story to be added to it. That other sense of us, side of us, that deeper I that I've talked about with great difficulty in other videos, that doesn't need to give everything a label, that doesn't need to give everything a story, that is what's left, that awareness when we put everything else down. And that is finding that balance. It's very rarely in perfect balance, you know. The vast majority of us are either more involved in the thinking and the doing. Actually, that's the vast majority of us. But there are people as well who are more drawn to the kind of being side of us as human beings. But to achieve a contented, maybe fulfilled life, however you want to, it's difficult. Is it happiness? Yes, it is happiness, but that always feels a little bit kind of superficial. Is the trick to it, of course, is finding some balance between those two. So try not to get too caught up in all of the thinking and the doing, but keeping that behind, underneath all of that doing is still this sense of spaciousness and of peace. And of course you come to a place like this and it's easier to feel that. And that's why it's so important to spend time away from the usual stuff of life, away from the computers, away from the newspapers. Nobody reads newspapers now. Away from the news feeds, away from people. If you know, of course, you can do it anywhere, and that's the trick: is learning to do how to connect with that sense of being wherever you are and whatever you're doing. But it's really good to come to a place like this, to get away from it all. It's much easier to do it in nature. You don't have to live in a place like this where I'm blessed. I'm really lucky to live in somewhere where 20 minutes in the car, even less than that, 2 minutes, 10 minutes walking from my house and 5 minutes walking, and I'm out in countryside like this. And that's not true for everyone, I realise that. But even if it's looking at flower in your window box or on your table in a vase, or going to a local park if you're in a city, or looking into the eyes of your pet, your beautiful cat or dog, it's easier to find that sense of being and to drop all of the narrative that runs our lives normally with natural things, with nature. Because nature has this, resonates with this beingness, comes from the same source as we come from, that unconditioned consciousness. And it doesn't have a complicated backstory. This grass here doesn't have a massive backstory about what happened to it when it was a kid, all of the bills it's got to pay, how he hates its co-workers, how life, quite frankly, wasn't meant to be like this. It was meant to be a lot easier, It doesn't have all of that, so you don't have to battle with that. That's the issue with other people. Of course, if you can do it when you're interacting with other people, that's where the real magic happens. But it's important to practice in times when you're not under the cosh, and I feel it within a minute of setting foot out the car or out the door, and you feel your blood pressure dropping, you feel this kind of spaciousness, and just taking it in, the totality of it all, and trying and dropping the thoughts about it, dropping the descriptors, dropping the thing that says that's a fir tree, or that's is it possible for you to experience the world, even just for a couple of minutes, if you can't, haven't got the luxury of having a day off like I do, is it possible for you to be in the world without telling yourself a story about it? Just here and now, that's all there is. Don't have to think about all the things that you've got to do later. Don't think about the things that happened this morning. Just here and now. Right here and now, I can feel it's so warm, the sun on me. I can feel it against my legs. There's a slight breeze. I can hear bird song. A plane, you can probably hear the plane. A tractor in the distance doing stuff. It smells fresh and warm. It smells like spring. Beautiful. There's like it just feels so alive. And right here in this moment, there's nothing else needed. And the more you can take time to come to find a way to step out of that thinking and that storytelling and the narrative, the more chance you've got of being able to kind of bring this element into your everyday life of doing and busyness and noise. And at first it'll feel like you have to work at it, and it doesn't hurt to, I do tend to, if I know I've got to go into a situation that's going to be potentially triggering or challenging, or a situation where I think people are going to get caught up with opinions. It's always people. And was it Jean-Paul Sartre? Hell is other people. I still practice saying to myself internally, okay, the only thing that I need to bring to this situation is just presence, consciousness, a spaciousness. That's all I need to do. The rest of it, any solutions, any ideas, will come out of the moment. Yes, I can be prepared if it's something where I need to have access to certain information or knowledge. I can come prepared, whether that's better if it's written down in some way so I don't have to waste valuable headspace on it, remembering it. Or if, you need to do a bit of research beforehand, that's absolutely fine. That gives you this kind of framework to refer to. But I cannot stress this enough. The most successful interactions I have, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and the most effective I've been able to be in job roles, but in personal relationships in my life, has been when I've been able to maintain that, to have that in the forefront of my mind. Just being here as a conscious space to allow everything to arise as it does. I've talked in other videos about when you are, especially in confrontation, this idea of kind of being like a cloud, or so that whatever comes at you just has nothing to hit, just flows through you. And it's a similar kind of thing. It's just drop in that narrative. Now, most of us go into situations, most of us will go into that meeting with a boss or a colleague or a co-worker or a family member with a script in the head that says, this is what I want to say, and when they say that, then I'm going to say this, and I know how they're going to respond. I know how they're going to react because, this is how they always react, and it's blah, blah, blah. We've already had the meeting 100 times in our own head, and we think we know how it's going to respond, how it's going to pan out. And we take that energy into this situation, and guess what? Invariably it pans out as we thought, and then that reinforces this belief that we think that is, well, we know we're right. It's amazing. I think we're all superhuman because it's very easy to get into that situation where you think, well, I'm always right. I said this was happening. I said this is how they would respond. What did I say? I knew it wasn't going to work, etc., etc., etc. Or, we precondition the whole thing. We pre-color it with our own experiences of that have shaped us. We're all just subjects to our conditioning, which means there is no space for anyone to maybe come with a different idea, maybe they will say exactly the thing that you expected them to say. We are creatures of habit after all, and if that other person doesn't have any kind of awareness of this other side of them, then they are going to respond and act out of that conditioning. It's guaranteed. However, if you are able to hold this space of non-judgmental, just awareness, just be there, listen. While you're listening, don't come up with formulating a response. Don't come up with, oh, I'm going to say this. Now, there will be in the moment something that there may be words that come. There may be a response that arises in the moment. And if that is the case, it will be incredibly effective and helpful. It won't cause more drama. But it's amazing how other people respond to that. And they may not even know why something feels differently, why this particular meeting didn't go as they thought it would, why they felt more able to express their thoughts and feelings and opinions more freely. With less heat in the conversation. And even if the other person does bring all of that conditioning and emotionally charged responses and things, it's like dropping, how do I describe it? If there's no reaction or response that they feel coming from you, that it's just okay, they're bringing what they bring. It's amazing how it can change the outcome, diffuse the situation. That's the only thing that I need to do pretty much in my whole life, in anything that I've ever done. The only thing I've ever really said I'm able to do is just bring that different energy and be that space for people to be themselves in and not be judged. And often people don't understand, but you see that in the reaction. I see it all the time in the cafe where I work at the moment. And it's a very different energy when I work on my own as it is when I'm working with my colleague. When I'm with my colleague, of course, we've got our own conversation going on. It's really different. But I see that response and I'll talk again about that. But I see that response. As customers come in, there's no idea in my head about who they are, where they're from, what they're going to be like, There are a lot of preconceptions you can imagine about that I hear from colleagues and from other people about, certain people from certain places and what they're like and this and the other. And that the minute anybody from that background comes into the cafe or anything, you can sense there is already a prejudgment there on behalf of the other people. And of course, then the visitors respond to that and it plays out exactly as everybody expected. But it's not because it's the truth, it's because we are experiencing the other person through this veil of our conditioning. Just drop it. If you can just drop it, just don't tell the story. Be more like the blue sky here, a few clouds. Okay, there might be like a bigger cloud like this one that is more difficult to shift, but it doesn't have to be forever, just for this moment. That's the other thing. This isn't about, one of the common kind of responses I get usually when I talk to somebody close to me about it, because of course it's always triggering talking to people close to you. you know, the response that you get to a conversation like this is often, oh, so you're just saying that, like, we should just be nice. The world, we'll just solve everything by just being nice. Is that what you're saying? We just need to love everybody and blah, blah, blah. No, because that's still a judgment. Yes, be nice, of course. You know, there is the Buddhist principle of loving kindness. I'm going to go backwards because I don't want that shrubbery in my shot. Although I do love a bit of shrubbery, for any Monty Python fans out there. This could end in tears because it's a bit of a rocky track, but anyway. No, it's not about trying to be perfect. It's not about having a view that everyone is beautiful and you know, on a level I do believe that, because I believe that we all come from the same place, and underneath all of the conditioning and the crap and the layers of storytelling and the layers of responses, and I just dropped my sunnies, so down we go. Okay. But it's about not even doing that. That's still a story. That's still a thing we're telling ourselves about somebody, that we believe about them, based on experience previously or what someone else has told us. So just drop all of that. It's not about that. You cannot, you don't need, that's not the work you need to do. The work we need to do is drop in the story, drop in the narrative about a situation before we encounter it. And while we're in it, you know, I made a video just yesterday about RSD, rejection sensitivity disorder, in people with ADHD, you know, hypersensitivity to criticism, and how it affects me as someone with ADHD. And it was a real-time video. I was in the middle of it, you know, after a conversation with my partner, and I've watched the video back a few times, of course, and it's interesting. You know, the pull to get involved with the story is so strong, so strong. And it's okay to acknowledge the history that's there, the emotions that are triggered, the reactions that are triggered in a moment, and to understand where that comes from, why we respond like that is really important, because it allows us to not be so damn judgmental and harsh on ourselves and on other people as well, to understand, okay, we're product of our environment and our upbringing. And whilst that is important, it is even more important to understand that that's just what it is. And in that moment there is another energy, another reality, the most fundamental and vital reality that we're in danger of overlooking in that moment if we get too caught up in that story, you know. And it was really interesting to watch myself go through that process of, okay, identification with why I was feeling like this, what it triggered in me from memories and things, how verbalizing stuff can help get it out as well, can help process it, and just watching myself over a period of 20 minutes or so to kind of go through it and process it. And almost watching the cloud lift. And so being in contact with and being connected to this deep sense of unconditioned awareness doesn't mean we aren't also the person. Doesn't mean that doesn't still exist. Doesn't mean the personality still doesn't play out. Doesn't mean that we don't still have all our weird quirks, traits, idiosyncrasies, stuff that make us lovable and annoying, in equal measure often. But you don't lose yourself in that. That's the key. Don't lose yourself in that. So, yeah, you know, this is something that I think about daily and that I practice daily and that I think about probably. I'm very, very keenly focused on it with this now that I'm doing this, making these videos for you guys, because every time I look at my channel and I think about how it's framed and what to talk about next, or I'm constantly trying to think about, okay, how do I talk about something that can't be spoken about? How do I understand that my life experience and is really important to share, because that's what we can resonate with, and that's what I resonate with when other people speak, and whether it's on YouTube or in person, or wherever, you know, that's where we can find connection. So it's really important that I do that, but how do I do it in a way that doesn't just add to this over use of the conditioned thinking, the conditioned kind of mind? It's a constant challenge, you know. But I feel it even now, just acknowledging it and being aware of it means that the energy is really different. I notice that in videos where I'm kind of more in balance with that, there's more space, there's more quiet and silence, apart from the tractor in the background. Sorry. Shall I turn around? Let's have a look. Maybe. Oh no, that's too bright. We'll stay there. Sorry for whizzing you around like that. Yeah. Oh, it's just lovely. It's just lovely. I think that's enough for today, for this little video. And honestly, if you're still with it and you're watching this whole video, then kudos to you. I would love to hear from you. See if it kind of connects on any level. Just quickly before I sign off, all of this various bits of noise going on as people are doing what they need to do in the countryside, working, you know, just reminds me of a lot of conversations I used to get into back in the UK, because I lived in a really, really rural area, and it would often be with people that had moved there, retired there, you know, left the big smoke to gear down and have a quieter retirement and enjoy the countryside and peace and quiet and what have you. And it would often be a shock to the system for them how noisy the countryside is, you know. It's a working landscape, unless you end up in splendid isolation on some Scottish island or on an island in the middle of a lake somewhere. It's a managed landscape. There's a lot going on. So there's a lot of noise, you know, busy folk, especially on a day like today when the sun comes out, snow's gone, chance to get loads of stuff done. So Mm. Just enjoy the view a little bit. Knock that off. See if I can show you the mountains a bit more. Beautiful. Okay. So, have a great day, everyone. Speak soon.